Last week, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that a West Virginia law preventing males from competing in women's sports could not be enforced against one particular male athlete. The court said that the law violated his Title IX civil rights. That's interesting because Title IX is supposed to apply to women, and he is not a woman. Now, later in the week, the athlete in question participated in a shot put event at a middle school track event. The other contestants in the event, who actually were female, refused to participate. Is that what it's going to take to solve the problem of males trying to compete with females? Joining me now to discuss it is Kim Russell. She's an Independent Women's Forum ambassador and the former head coach for women's lacrosse at Oberlin College. Kim, welcome to Washington Watch.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we're going to talk about West Virginia a bit, but before we get there, I want to review some recent history because last week the Biden administration released some new rules relevant to Title IX. What was your reaction to the new rules?
Oh, that they are trying to put in 1,500 pages a bunch of things to cover up what they're really trying to do. The original version of Title IX was 37 words. And the fact that the Biden administration in 1,500 pages is trying to hide that they are equating the word sex with gender identity. And so every institution in the country that accepts federal funding, which is pretty much every school, many daycare facilities, and almost every college, including private colleges that accept the FAFSA, is going to have to comply with this rule. And it's saying that men, again, will be able to take away opportunities from women. So it is not upholding Title IX at all. It is stripping away all rights that women have had for the last 52 years, including me. It's how I went to college on an athletic scholarship to play 2 sports at the D1 level at William and Mary, and what enabled me to do what I've done for the rest of my life, which is coach and teach. So it's really insanity because it's not speaking the truth.
Now, Kim, you mentioned the rule, but as you also mentioned, it's 1,500 pages, which means there's actually a number of rules embedded in this, a number of changes that they make. Is there one in particular that concerns you?
There's multiple, but one of them, for people who know my story, it's something that I'm very familiar with. It is about freedom of speech. And while the current education secretary tries to make it sound like everyone will be protected from sexual discrimination and sexual harassment and sexual assault, the wording of this will actually do the opposite. And basically, someone could just call you a transphobe for not using the correct pronouns, and you will have no due process because at this point, you only have to either be thought of as saying something that is severe, which calling someone the wrong pronoun could be considered severe, or pervasive, meaning you're saying it over and over again. And so I can tell you as a coach, I've coached for over 28 years. And in the sport of lacrosse, similar to basketball, you would say, pick up your man. And I would say that to girls even, because that's the way we were taught. You have to play man to man. Don't say play woman to woman. We say play man to man. And at this point as a coach, I could be canceled again and fired just for saying that. And I wouldn't even be able to know what the charges were against me. So it's really crazy what is embedded in this new law. Or rule.
This new rule, which again is 1,500 pages, there's another interesting part of this that I think is just worth noting here, because Title IX was created for women, and so there was a definition of what women were and what men were. This new rule inserts gender identity as the prevailing category. But what's interesting in 1,500 pages, where there was a lot of lawyering, is that they never took the time to define what gender identity is. They just insert this term that is undefined. And it's really unusual in a legal context to not define the terms that you're using. Why do you think that is?
Fascinating. They're trying to trick us, is basically what they are doing. They are making it sound like they are doing the right things for us, when in fact they are stripping opportunities from women and girls and being willing to put women and girls in dangerous spaces again, because they specifically speak of locker rooms and that anyone who identifies as a woman or a girl must be allowed in those locker rooms. So that, to me, is sexual harassment right there. And I'm waiting for more people to step up. I'm waiting for the Me Too movement. Where is it? Because we're telling girls to be silent in locker rooms when there's a fully intact male in the locker room. And basically, we're grooming them to be sexually assaulted because they're not going with their gut feeling, which is, this doesn't feel comfortable to me. So that's where we are.
Yeah. And that is an important but obscured point in all of this is you're training young girls, you're training children to not listen to their inhibitions. And you're training them that their inhibitions, their feelings of discomfort are actually forms of discrimination and judgmentalism that they need to train themselves out of. And of course, if children learn not to listen to their inhibitions and their instincts, they become targets for really terrible things. And that's one of the serious but underappreciated consequences of all this. But Kim, I want to move on in our discussion because post the rules, we now have a decision out of the Biden administration rules, I should say. There's a decision from the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals about a West Virginia case and a West Virginia law that says boys cannot compete against girls, but the court said that law could not be applied to a particular middle school student. What else can you tell us about that?
Well, what I can tell you is that middle school girls have had the courage to stand up for themselves, and 5 of them recently refused to compete against that male competitor. They all stood down so that he would have no one to compete against. And these girls are so courageous. And the fact that we're putting this on the shoulders of middle school girls who are already going through so much, the adults in the room to step up. And in this case, the coach did not. I have found out through Riley Gaines, who's been in contact with these girls, that they have actually been punished for stepping out. So again, where are the adults in the room protecting our girls and standing up for girls and women? Coaches, parents, administrators, you have got to fight back. You've got to stand up. Our girls are depending on us. Let's go.
And let's talk a bit more about that story. These middle school girls, who I understand was a shot put event, just refused to participate. Do you know how that came to be? Was this a spontaneous event? Was there some coordination between the girls before the event saying that this is what we're going to do?
I have not talked to them about that, and I do not know the details. My guess is that they did talk about it beforehand. So, again, their courage, I am hoping that the courage of these 5 young girls will set off a countrywide stance of girls saying no more, and of the adults saying no more. We are not going to put our girls and women through this. There is a reason Title IX happened 52 years ago, and it is because it isn't fair when girls have to compete against boys at any level. There is a playing field for everyone who wants to compete. There are boys teams, there are co-ed teams, and there are girls and women's teams for a reason, to give opportunities girl and women. Middle school boy, before that meet, before this ruling, had already beaten over 100 girls, and since the ruling had beaten another 163. It's probably more than that at this point. So these opportunities are being taken away from girls every time a boy is allowed on a team and every time a boy or a man is allowed to compete on a women's team.
Kim, why do you think we don't see more efforts like this in these track events, volleyball games, swim meets where male participants end up competing against females? Why, it seems to be the rule still rather than the exception, that the girls just say, that's too bad, let's go ahead and compete?
I think there's a combination of things happening here. One is the pressure to look like you are not a kind person, right? People are afraid to be called the name of a transphobe when they're not. Most of these people are so accepting of everyone and so afraid to hurt the feelings. Here's the thing. The highest form of kindness is truth and being authentic. And anyone who is a male, a biologically born male, cannot become a female. And it's just fact that we are biologically different. So by speaking the truth, that is the kindest thing you can do. It is the highest vibration of love, is to speak the truth. And I, again, encourage the coaches and parents and administrators, but everyone is afraid, whether it's because they're afraid they're going to lose their job, they're afraid they're going to lose friends, they're afraid they're going to be ostracized by their teammates. Let me tell you, since I have spoken up, I have had more positive support than you can imagine from all across the political spectrum. Pretty much everyone is on the same page, with the exception of a very few.
Now, you mentioned the coach of these West Virginia middle school girls who boycotted this particular event seemed not to be supportive of the stand that they took and may have, in fact, expressed that to them in some way. What do we know about the coach and why, whether it's a he or she, I don't know, why he or she was not supportive of this effort and maybe where that pressure to the coach was coming from?
My guess is the pressure was coming from the administration. Again, any school activity is being federally funded. And just like anything else, money seems to talk and money scares people. Yeah. I will say again, the truth is the highest vibration, and we will be coming out on top on this. Women have rights. We need to stand for our women and girls.
Now, you are active on this issue. You're talking to people all over the country. Do you see momentum for not only just the common sense position that there are boys and there are girls and it's okay to recognize those differences, but to women like these middle school girls taking these positions? And we've seen, you, Riley Gaines, of course, have done so prominently all over the country. Is there a growing sense of solidarity amongst those who are uncomfortable with this situation? Women and young girls saying, yeah, we're going to take a stand, even if it's uncomfortable, because we're not going to tolerate this anymore.
Yes, there is. And I believe that, again, the more people speak up, the more we'll have the courage to do it. Especially, I am going to call out these 5 very courageous middle school girls, because that gives adults courage. It gives kids their age courage. It gives high schoolers and college athletes the courage to speak up. We are also getting ready to do a rally. We will be going around the country, and this is a coalition of women's groups from across the political spectrum, from radical feminists who are very left-leaning and very liberal. We are all on the same page on this, and we are fighting this together. It includes professional athletes like Martina Navratilova. It includes multiple current and former athletes and coaches and policymakers and attorneys. Yeah. We will not back down.
And Kim, in about a minute, I'd be interested in just hearing a little bit more about your own story, because you've taken a stand, and undoubtedly there has been a price for you to pay in doing so. But you also mentioned the benefits of being courageous and saying what you know to be true despite that conflict. What have you learned personally through this process?
The best thing you can do is be authentic and speak from your heart and speak the truth. I accept everyone to be who they want to be, right? There is a place for everyone to play every sport that they want to play. There are people saying, why don't the trans athletes start their own teams? And others will say, well, there's not enough of them. Guess what? They used to say that to women. And there's actually a case about that with skiing. So look into that, right? Everyone is included. If you're a biological male, right now you can play on men's and boys teams or co-ed teams. And if you're a biological female, you can play on girls and women's teams and co-ed teams. And the other part of this is the safety aspect, not just in the locker rooms and bathrooms, but on the field. And we're not just talking about from trans athletes, we're talking about from boys and men who may be playing on a women's team, because there are states that allow that. Massachusetts, we saw it this fall in field hockey. I am a field hockey player. The worst injury I've ever had is from playing co-ed field hockey as an adult. I was taking that chance, however. I knew I was playing with men, and it just happened because a man fell on me. The same injury would not have happened if a woman had fallen on me. Their force, their quickness is so much greater,
Kim,
than a woman's.
We have to let that be the final point because we are out of time, but so grateful for your courage and also for your time today. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.